Good evening. You've come to Hit of the Week Parlor Party with Janet Klein, and today my very, very special guest, the Grand Poetess, Miss Laurel Ann Bogen.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I am pleased to be here.
Oh,
Thank
Laurel
you.
Ann. Well, I'm so happy to have you here in my parlor. I are exchanging parlor merriment this afternoon. Um, so you and I go way, way, way back, and
Way back, way back.
so I am departing from the musical fair, and I'm going to lure everybody into the world of Los Angeles poetry. And that's one of the wonderful things that I tripped into not long after coming to Los Angeles in 1980. And Laurel Ann has you grew up here in Los Angeles,
And born
and
here.
wow, born and raised. And I'm going to let you say a couple things about how you became you. Like, how did you
Well,
find your way into the poetry world of Los Angeles, and how did all this come about?
well, my goodness. Well, I kind of became a poet by default. Um, I when I was in college at the University of Southern California, go Trojans. Um, I had a crush on my French teacher
Ho
there,
ho.
and I I had written what I thought was a poem, and I had it on my desk, and when I should have been paying attention to class, and my French professor was walking by my desk, and he saw this poem on my desk, and he picked it up, and he looked at it, and he said, not bad." Well, that was like it. I had ever since then I started writing poems, and I probably would have stopped writing poems, except at the end of that semester there was a sign up on campus saying that the Academy of American Poets was going to sponsor a contest, and that they were going to give $100 and everything. And so I thought, oh well, maybe I'll apply. Well, it turns out not only did I apply, I got first place,
Wow.
and I beat everybody, including the graduate students.
Woo!
Uh, so I also have to mention that that was a long time ago, and there was not the competition that there is now,
Now,
and
may I
especially
ask, what year would that have been, for instance, if do you mind?
1968.
Really? Is that so?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow. Okay. So, for instance,
So
did you at that time have a sense of, the hearing the voices of the great poets? Were there venues, were there recordings that you were finding? Were you
no,
hearing Merlin
not
or
really.
W.
Uh-uh.
William Carlos Williams, or you know, what did you know about Sylvia Plath and Kerouac,
Yes, no,
Ginsberg?
no, God, yes.
What did you have an awareness of them when you started writing poetry, or were you sort of just in your own bubble?
Well, there was not a lot of modern poetry being, out there accessible to me. But of course, there was Sylvia Plath and Anne Sexton. The Bell Jar had just been released in in a, en masse at that time, and also, and everybody was like into that at the moment. There was a huge um, group of young women who were like attempting to be Sylvia Plath or trying to figure out what to do with themselves. And I admit she did make quite a difference in my poetic career, one I don't think necessarily helped for a long time. And so I did read her. I'd say my first really two important influences were T.S. Eliot and James Dickey. James Dickey, most people know as a novelist, but he was a poet first. And unfortunately, his novel writing is what he was famous for. He wrote a novel called Deliverance that they made into a movie with Burt Reynolds. And he became a celebrity, and it kind of ruined his poetry. But he wrote a poem called Sheep Child, and it's about a like a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum, and it's about a thing that's like pickled in like a jar, and it's told in the voice of this thing that's in a pickled jar that's half sheep and half baby human, and it's talking from that character, and it blew my mind. And because I realized for the first time that you can write about anything. If you can pull it off, it's yours. And that suddenly freed me up. And that the only limitation is your imagination.
Right.
And that suddenly, that made me decide that I had to be a poet. I had to do that. And at the time, it didn't seem like that unusual because it was the 60s, and why not? So I just kept writing poems, and somehow the years went on, and suddenly it's like, what is it, 2020 now, and I'm still writing poems. And this last book,
Thank goodness.
yes, number 11,
Number
and
11 books. Fabulous. Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
so things have
Wow.
changed, yeah, but
Beautiful
I'm still writing
adventure.
poems.
So much, so much potential. Like William Carlos Williams said, you can't get the news from poems, but everybody dies miserably every day for the lack of what is found there.
Indeed.
So, and these days when everybody is nesting at home, what a good time to find poetry. And, for me, I am always dying to hear the voices of the poets reciting. I am endlessly hungry for that aspect. And I don't know how much there
Mhm.
was for you when you were coming up. I know I could watch the episode of Steve Allen having Jack
Yes,
Kerouac there in the studio
yes,
on television reciting
yeah.
poetry. Wow. How cool is that? Why don't we have poetry TV shows now? I don't know. But anything's possible. We are today.
Yes, indeed.
So Laurel Ann, how about dishing out something for everybody?
Sure, I can do that. I think I could do a poem that is called, how about My Celluloid Heroes?
Excellent.
In whose dreams will these stars shimmer 100 light years from now? Their blown up images snipped of imperfections, the errant mole, an ingrown hair, when paste does not pass for diamonds. Confined by fame, Pilates, and exfoliation, tucked in canyons behind gated walls. Some corner the market on chihuahuas. Others collect bags of kudos. They tell me Rodeo Drive is a state of mind. As for mine, it skims along Hollywood Boulevard like a chauffeur. From the back seat, I hear my voice at home in the shadows. I don't want to sleep yet, Bogen. Drive. I can see and not be seen, invisible to a world in which I was born. Now you see me, now you don't. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Beautiful. What happens to a person when you grow up in this Los Angeles, California, from babyhood onward?
Oh my, you see our city just, nothing ever stays the same. You know, you think it's going to stay that way, and no matter what, things change. You know, one day it's one way, and then you don't go back there for like a year. Different, all all changed. Things that, for the most part, you can't expect things to stay the same.
Do you have a
For
memory?
example,
Do you have a memory of Bunker Hill by any chance?
no,
Like the
not so
old Bunker
much
Hill?
that,
Ah.
but I remember when they did when they built Chavez Ravine, when they built the Dodger Stadium. I dearly remember I spent many years going to Bullock's Wilshire with my family. In fact, it was the only place that sold the uniforms for the high school I went to. You had to buy it at Bullock's Wilshire.
Ooh.
And my mother and my grandmother and I, we used to go to the tea room at least
Yes.
once or twice a month.
And just for
And
folks out of town,
yes,
describe that. Describe that Bullock's Will. That was the Bullocks on Wilshire, correct?
it's on Wilshire Boulevard. Now it houses the library for, I believe it's Southwestern Law School, but it was built right before the crash in 1929, and it is gorgeous. It's just unbelievably gorgeous. And at Christmas time, they would have this huge Christmas tree made out of white uh, plumes of, I guess it was ostrich feathers. And then it had dazzling white lights on it. And it was the most beautiful thing. And they had like a Lalique uh, glass boutique, and they had a room called the French room, and the women would come in and sit there, and they would have the models come by and show them what they were wearing. It was just the most glorious place. And on the top floor, the fifth floor, I believe it is, they had a tea room, and they had models that would come by, and they had a maitre d' named Umberto Lara, and he was famous for, if he knew you, if you were a regular, he would greet you and kiss you on either cheek. And I there was a time I worked for the Herald Examiner newspaper, which was the number 2 newspaper in LA at the time, and I did an article about him for the newspaper. And so after that, whenever I came to the store, because I loved going there, and they had like tea sandwiches and all kinds of things. They also had a bar, and he would send me over a champagne cocktail every time I would go there, courtesy of the house.
Exactly.
And so, yes, it
I
was great.
kind of forgot that they used to have full on like these elegant lunchrooms and bars in the shopping.
Yes.
And this, of course,
Well, they make you want to buy things.
oh my goodness, this Bullock's Wilshire was is just the height of Art Deco.
Yes,
Uh, wow, just a gorgeous palatial place, and
yes.
amazing.
It's kind of,
It's fun. It's fun to have straddled the generations to have the connection to that kind of old view of Los Angeles. We got it kind of growing up the very tail end of it, right?
yeah.
You
I
know.
remember also going to the Coconut Grove at the Ambassador Hotel
Did
when
you?
it was a nightclub. And oh boy, that was something. Um, yes, it was the real thing.
Wow.
I got to meet Robert Goulet. And
Oh, indeed.
see, what happened was in 1960, there was a play entitled Camelot, which played on Broadway. And Mr. Goulet was played Lancelot. And growing up, I listened mostly to Broadway musical type things because that's what my parents listened to. And they brought home one day the vinyl album of Camelot, and his photograph was on this um, album. And then I heard him sing "If Ever I Would Leave You," and I looked at that photograph, and I was 10 years old, and I fell in love with this man. I fell in love with his voice and who he looked like. And so my parents told me if he ever comes to Los Angeles, if I got all A's on my report card, they would take me. So I studied and studied and studied and studied, and turned out he came to Los Angeles, and he was going to play at the Coconut Grove. And so I did get all A's, and they made a reservation and they took me. And it was a big deal. My mom had a dress made for me, a little satin, lavender purple satin thing with spaghetti straps, and a bunch of silk violets at my waist. You have to understand, being 12 years old in 1962 is a lot different than being 12 years old in 2012 or whatever. I mean, I had braces on my teeth and thick glasses. I mean, I was more like 10.
Oh, you
Anyway,
had those cat eye glasses. I love
yes,
those.
yes. Anyhow, my dad and my mother and I, we left my brother at home, everything. So my dad bribed the maitre d' to get a good table. And then after the show, he bribed him more to get me backstage. And I was there trembling in my little shoes. And I came up, and there were like all kinds of chorus girls and stuff there. I said, "Mr. Goulet, you were fabulous. I loved your show so much." And I had this little card that they used to give at the tables, saying who they were that were performing. And it had his picture. And I said, "Can I have your autograph?" And he said, "Certainly." And he kissed me on the cheek and he signed it. And I was in heaven. I just kind of barely walked back to the table. And I kept that card with his signature on it for so long. I kept it under my pillow until the ink just kind of like spread into the kind of cardboardy, that was there. It was permanently in the paper. It was very funny.
Oh. That's the way it is when you grow up in Los
Yes.
Angeles.
And in LA, you get kind of used to seeing people, especially like if you grow around, in the center of town, which is where I grew up. You kind of, it's not unusual to run into people that are famous.
Right. I remember you wrote a really great poem about Gene Wilder, didn't you?
I did. Would you like to hear it?
I would. Do you have it
Okay.
handy by chance?
I do, actually. Let me just have a sip of water here.
Since since we're on the subject of fascinating
Oh, yes. All
Los
right.
adventures.
It is called Gene Wilder Saved My Life. Woman Tells All. Yes, it be true. He did. He really did. Swear to God, things be pretty bad. The heart be pumping tears, and there be no stopping it, any of it at all. The work be too rock hard. What I got to show for any of it, and no stopping, but keep going. Can't look over my shoulder or know they be taking it all away. Whatever it be, I want it to stop or did, but maybe now just to be. And why can't I have it all? Anyway, you know about Gene Wilder. who be the love of the life. 16 times I see Silver Streak sit through 12-hour Gene Wilder marathon and no getting up to pee even. Every single Gene Wilder movie ever made, I see at least 5 times, except the Saturday game, which I miss on TV and never found the rerun. I just can't stand it no more. I say I want out of this mess. No man who want me hell. I be no dummy. And maybe I be not pretty, but don't crack no mirrors. And where be the money? This got to stop, got to sleep so I don't wake up. And Gene Wilder, maybe he be just a dream, like this nightmare place be twisted in my heart. No more pain forever. No more. This be it. And even though I promise in my heart to go tomorrow, the first show, the first day, Gene Wilder, the world's greatest lover, my heart say no more. I took the whole thing. I know what you be thinking, but I just be so tired. I just took the whole thing. And there be no puking, even though I don't drink normal, and there be that whole bottle gin too. It be thick in the ear, fall down a lot. I can't stop, run some more. It buzz and heart, just sleep, please, forever, I say. When the eyes open, not well, I see blur and spin, the legs not work so good, pissed as hell that it not work, and there be no more pills in the goddamn bottle. And not only that, I missed the first show, the first day. Gene Wilder, the world's greatest lover. What the hell? Nothing else doing anyway. Maybe he forgive. It only be the third show, so I called Danya, say, Gene Wilder at 4 p.m. Okay, she say. We took the bus with no lines anywhere, not even on my face. This be a joke. Except I looked like shit, and I'd be standing in line at the movies. Danya be holding me up. I not stand so good. You know, I hear a voice. Would you let me step in front of you, miss? I want to see the audience. Eyes focus on blue shirt, shoes, eyes, and my heart stop right there. Oh, God, it be him. Oh, God, I cry, I fall down, weep at the enormity of everything. Quiet. I love you, Mr. Wilder. I love you. Oh, God, you save my life. I cry alone. If I be dead, I never see you, the world's greatest lover. I never understand. We all must hold tight. Above all, unchain heart.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you.
Poetry adventure. Laurel Ann,
Yes, dear.
I would like to show a little film that was made, a little film short that was made for one of your poems.
Sure,
Uh,
that'd be lovely.
and tell me the proper title of this and what year it was made.
It was made in 1994, and it's called Wings, That Which Takes Flight.
Beautiful. Well, I would love to show this
And
right.
it's my voice, but not me in the film.
All right, let's take another poetry adventure.
scissors, rock. Paper, scissors, rock.
We return to ourselves gradually. Peel layers from squares and squares of rice paper.
Paper, scissors, rock.
I pick up a bamboo brush, dip it in ink, hold my breath, let it fly on the page, dip and stroke quickly, up, again, and across. Ravens against a barren field in a January frost. Sheer the medieval sky with their magnificent blackness. They arc and crest, cut the air deftly above this walled city, leave a gash in their stead. I bind it with cloth and linen fiber, yet the ink spreads across bodies and nations. I scuff my heels on the earthly rock where I live, flung on an indigo canopy. This mechanism, chain, and stone. Paper, scissors, rock. This catapult. Paper, scissors, rock. Paper, scissors, rock. Paper, scissors, rock. Paper, scissors, rock. Paper, scissors, rock.
Yay! Beautiful.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Now, again, what year was that? That was 1994 that
Right.
film was made.
Time goes so quickly.
That was beautiful. There should be more things like that.
I know.
We need
I'm
more
trying to, I beg your pardon?
we need more poetry and pictures and
Oh,
poetry and film and poetry and the voices and the poets. We need it.
well, one of my favorite poems, I think, I've been reading ones that are kind of dark. Would it be okay if I read something that not so dark, like Origami, the Unfolding Art?
That sounds beautiful. Let's do it.
Okay. I beat a stillness of blue tissue birds from shreds, learning to fold smooth chrysanthemums, gold and violet, colors run deep as solitude. Mine was the loneliness of comets, so high and untouchable that only the most foolhardy dared follow the brilliance of my tale, that singular shiver, a hollow consummation I could not hold for the tearing of hearts. No longer muscle, a sheer tissue, I learned to fold again, my body circling, legs around waist, arms against chest, and these gentle birds flutter wings, heart and heart.
Beautiful. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Laurel Ann.
Yes, darling.
Let's go. Let's go on a little journey. I'm going to pull some photographs and some fun things to look at. Is that all right?
Fantastic. I can hardly wait.
Let's do that. Okay, here we go. Laurel Ann. Let's go back down memory lane.
Yes.
Shall we? I know that not that many people maybe know about my interest in poetry, but when I first came to Los Angeles and to go to UCLA, I was in the art department, and I was very fascinated coming to Los Angeles and seeing all of these personal ads in the papers. You know, there wasn't internet, and so it seemed like this way to find other like-minded niche interests. And
Mhm.
so one of the first things that I happened upon was a little listing for a women's poetry salon. And as it turned out, it was run by the great Eloise Klein Healy. And Eloise was, she became, was she called the Poet Laureate of Los Angeles?
She was the first Los Angeles Poet Laureate. Yes.
Wow. I had no idea. I just tripped into this thing, and I was a student. I had no money, and when I found out that the ladies were paying to be in her salon to get her advice on writing and all of that, she said, "Oh, just stay." And so she encouraged me in my my pursuits, and well, and then I started to learn about these various publications that were going on, and just starting to find out that there was sort of a world of poetry in Los Angeles, including the marvelous hub of poetry in Los Angeles called the Beyond Baroque Foundation,
Yes.
of which you are on the board presently. Is that
I
correct?
am. I'm vice president on the board.
So the Beyond Baroque Foundation is in an old building that maybe I'm not sure what that was. It's a beautiful.
It was the old Venice City Hall.
That's so
And I think the building is like from 1920 something or something like that.
really beautiful.
And it's a great, great place. We have bookstore, we've got events, poetry readings, we have classes, we have an art gallery. We've got the best small press books available. We've got, it's just a terrific place.
It is. It's a
We just had
treasure.
our 50th anniversary a couple of years
Wow.
ago.
Oh, wow. That's great. See, and it's really been a poetry hub then for many years, 50
Yes.
years. Incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, an absolute treasure. And I happened to find some listings of, calls for poetry.
Mhm.
And so I came across this thing, and the publication was called Nude Erections. So I decided, well, I'm going to I'm going to submit something, but I'm going to submit something not letting anybody know whether I was male or female. I thought that that
Mm-hmm.
would
Mm-hmm.
be interesting. So, and then I got into this thing, and the array of people that was included in this was just quite something, um, including your grand self. Uh, Gosh, people that became, friends over the years. S.A. Griffin and Doug Knott. And look at Charles Bukowski's in there. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm. Dave Alvin.
Dave Alvin. It was really interesting. And so I had no idea when I submitted this thing what it was going to be. It was published by the Illuminati Press, who I know have been a great support for you over the years. And
Mm-hmm.
so they had an event, a publication party, which I was informed of. This is 1986. And I'd met Eloise Klein Healy and no one else in the poetry scheme of things. And I went to this incredible event at the Beyond Baroque Foundation, and all the well known people were reading. And I was knocked out by that experience. And I just couldn't believe what a treasury of wonderful talent there was in this town. And I remember the publisher, Paul Schneider, Peter Schneider,
Peter Schneider,
Schneider,
but he called himself P. Schneidery.
P. Schneider. That's right. And he came up to me and went, "Where did you come from?" Where did I was so beyond not on the map. But anyway,
Yeah.
it was a very interesting first dip into the world of poetry. And so, for instance, Ms. LAB had been publishing. When did you start publishing, would you say?
Well, my first thing that was published in 1972, I think. Yeah.
Wow, neat. And this was this your first book? I know it was
No,
printed,
no, no.
it was
It was
published in
actually
1980.
first thing that was published was in a magazine called golly, I can't remember the name now. Um, I had two poems in a magazine called I can't remember. It is not called the name of the magazine is not I can't remember.
Yeah,
But
it might
it's
come back to you.
but I
But this
had
is by 1980.
mhm.
There was this lovely book of your work, and maybe you'd done another book before that. This is just something that I happen to have.
Yes, I did, but there's something. Stone Cloud,
Ooh.
Stone Cloud. A book came out. It was in 19 a magazine, a literary magazine. It came out in 72 or 3,
Mm,
and it had a couple of poems in it. That was my first publication.
excellent. Let's see. Oh, I was just thinking of something else. Here, let's go to the next book. This was also Illuminati Press, The Great
Hmm.
Orange Leonard Scandal. And I'm just saying, anybody who's looking for good reading material, you gotta check out these books. Do Iguanas Dance Under the Moonlight?
Now that's a little joke. You see, people look at that, they don't know what that means. I'll tell you right now. Do iguanas dance under the moonlight? It's a little poetry singing joke.
I don't know. I don't understand the joke personally.
Well, okay, there's a song
Is
the
there a
Beach
song?
Boys sang.
Oh,
There's a Beach Boys
with
song.
the
Do you
same.
want to dance under the moon?
Oh, do you want to dance? Ah. Which begs the question: do iguanas dance
Well, you never know.
under the moonlight? So this one was from 1984,
Right.
correct? And let's see. Oh, and here it happens to be. Now I don't remember what year this was, but Laurel Ann, you asked me if I would help take some portraits of you,
And
and
that was when I was living up in the Hollywood Hills.
yes, and
So
what was that place? It was an amazing foundation of some sort.
yeah, it was. It was the Pacificus Foundation. And I lived there from about 94 to 98. So it was sometime then.
Wow. So yeah, so you had like a residency there, and it was an
Yeah.
incredible woodsy
Yeah. And they had
bohemian.
a tea house up in the hills. You go up there, and I remember going up there and watching the fireworks, when they were having the 4th of July and stuff.
Who started it? It was
A
someone
guy named
home.
Curtis Zahn,
Mm.
and he was an old guy, and he had when they would send pigeons with messages to air things to people by pigeon.
Yes.
He was a communist, and anyway, it was a very kind of cool, weird people.
Wow.
And I won a poetry contest there, and I got to stay there for a few years.
Wow. That was
And
incredible.
yeah,
Wow.
it
Well,
was a night.
I took a few very beautiful photographs of you. I'm still very proud of these. It was fun to go back into my archive today and
Yes,
find these. And I took them with a good old fashioned 35 millimeter camera, and they were prints
right.
like you used
Boy,
to
it looks kind of
do.
like Vita Berra.
I think, yeah, I thought that they were very wonderful.
They are, my
And
goodness.
look at, that
Oh
was
my
that
goodness.
little guy.
Oh,
Oh. Oh, I love seeing these. Here is another one of your books called The Burning from 1991, I believe. Is that correct? Mm. And along the way, you also asked me if I would take some photographs of the performing group of
nearly fatal
poetesses.
women. Yes,
They went by the name the Nearly Fatal Women. And
yes.
I forget, when did you do the first show with these
The
ladies?
first shows came, let's see, we went to New York in 1997, and we started about 2 years before that. I think we started about 1994, maybe 95.
Uh-huh. Wow.
So,
So
and
this
this
is
was,
yeah, so I don't know if you want to tell about these ladies, but they're all
well,
pretty amazing
um,
in their own right.
there was, this was an early conflagration of poets. Um, the second, the woman sitting in the chair next to me was in the group at first. Her name was Anna Homler, but she had a solo career as well that required that she be, goes to Europe a lot and performs in Europe a lot. So it turned out to be just Suzanne Lamas, Linda Albertano, and myself
Mm-hmm.
for the most of the time that we performed.
Yeah, I know that
And
Anna was
Anna Homler,
a performance artist. She's
yes,
the lady sitting next to you on the
yes.
seats.
And
And
she's fantastic at what she does.
amazing.
Sorry that she had to kind of go off, but we miss her.
Oh,
And so we put together a show, and we've changed it every few years. And we've been around the country. We've performed at the Knitting Factory in New York City, and at Cornell College, and all kinds of places.
great ladies.
And
Great,
yeah.
great writers, every one of you. And I was very proud of these. I thought they were pretty atmospheric photos.
Ah, my.
Yeah, how about that? I'd go see that show. I have.
Yes, my God,
Oh,
how
oh,
young
I
we are.
slipped in. This is the cover
Yeah.
to my own little poetry book that I did in 1998.
Ooh.
And I got up my gumption to do that. And I was doing poetry readings um, just in the late, I don't know, 80s and 90s. And then I started to learn little songs on the ukulele. And
Yes. I
school
remember when
sang.
you got your
Yeah.
first ukulele.
I started with triangle
Ah.
because I really like the idea of starting small, of thinking small and polishing
Mhm.
it up and making something very nice. and something you have to lean in to listen to.
Yes.
Some more photographs that I took of you on other occasions, Miss Laurel Ann Bogen.
Hmm.
More beautiful
I
black and
believe you
white.
gave me that necklace.
Oh, I was admiring that. Beautiful. And I think that might have been these that we did right around the one, the last girl in the land of the butterflies. So I think,
Yes, I think it
yes,
is.
so I thought that was so perfect. Your beautiful outfit
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and the wafting kind of drapery. Woo! Oh, and here is this your most recent book?
My most recent book, yes.
Well,
Psychosis in the Produce Department.
let's go. Were you going to read this poem? That
I
title?
can. Would you like me to?
Let's do it. Let's say goodbye to these images and Miss Laurel Ann. I would like to sneak in a little poem that I've been playing with, doing some drawings too. So let's have a little interlude of one of my poems, and then would you come back and recite another for us?
Sounds charming.
Let's do this. All right, here goes. That used to be small, frivolous, pea-minded Jane. Caps on, blue jays, sapsuckers, a chest as hollow as. Knock it slowly to see. Yes, you empty closet. Well, there it is, a little teeny tiny poem from the mind of Klein. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. How about another poem by Ms. Laurel Ann Bogen?
I am absolutely flabbergasted. What a wonderful poem. It's charming in many different ways.
Whoopee!
Psy- yes, indeed. Psychosis in the Produce Department. It is all too much squish. Tomatoes leer, rub red against the flesh. There is danger in their eyes as the carts chart collision courses. Killers are everywhere. Mushrooms disguise as evolution. I keep the juices intact, encased in animal skin. We pick our food for ripeness and color. The cucumbers smirk and beckon. My veins pop like grapes between fingers. I wheel metal through bins.
Yeah.
That's my little psychotic poem there, right there.
It can happen anywhere.
Anywhere, grocery store, who knows?
Woo! Yes.
When you least expect it, darling. Yes,
Great to make art out of it all. That's what.
yes. Just go to Trader Joe's. You'll find it anywhere.
One can muse on the details of all kinds
Yes.
of things, and especially in this time and space we're in now.
Oh, indeed.
We just it's impossible not to muse on the enormity of it all.
Oh, golly, yes.
So, how about, you know what? I think I would like to sneak in one more little poem of mine, if I may.
Please, please, please. I want to hear it.
And then we'll just segue back out into the ether. And here goes. One more little one, everybody, and then we'll call it a parlor party. All right, here goes. The planets and the stars say I have a right to you. Our meeting is a clandestine clattering of meteorites crashing, cracking up. I tell you, it's the coincidence of light years. I had a love who was fair-haired. Where? Gone. The wind blew up the meadow where we walked. The sun slipped away. The wind wrapped his large arms around Bill, carrying him around, blowing on his back, crossing over city highways, panning the landscape in search of Mary. An old man with an old lantern sits in the woods and wonders. And there is Mary. Mary, he yells, and there is Mary, wrapped in chains and newspapers, and she is taking tiny steps in a sideways direction toward a cloud of dust. She's trying to escape like an illusion in a poof, but her movements are hindered by her wrappings. She sings, I need your shackles to remind me I'm doomed to nowhere land, darling. I will hiss the songs of sinful snakes and fallen angels. I've been there before, and I'm going back again. There, I'm a sky goddess, and there I have a million lovers and a million jewels. But Mary, what of the campfires and our garden at home? Thank you for viewing and listening in for a little poetry segment. Ms. Laurel Ann Bogen, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been
You are marvelously welcome. Thank you.
lovely, fun. So let's do it again.
Anytime.
Shall we? I mean, a civilized way to spend the afternoon.
Very, very.
So here goes, everybody. I would just like to say once again, a marvelous mwah, thank you to Laurel Ann Bogen, poetess extraordinaire of Los Angeles. And we hope that everything will be okay with the Beyond Baroque Foundation, and they will see through this pandemic situation, and we'll all meet again for wonderful things there. And in the meantime, here we've done it. We put it up on the internet, and I'm going to follow this with a little information where people can look up more about you and your wonderful work and take a deep dive into the poetry land. Yay.
Thank you, my darling.
It was very fun. Thank you, thank you. Cheers to you. Oops. Mwah. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Memory lane I'll wander, wandering night and day. When roses bloom and spread perfume, will you remember me? When lovers lane you stroll again, will you remember me? When moonbeams dance and bring romance, you'll think it heavenly. But when tear-dimmed eyes mean sad goodbyes, will you